Welcome to today's webinar on automate legal administrative tasks with generative AI. My name is Raghav Jagannathan. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Cobot Inc. We are the creators of this amazing product called Clapper, which is a generative AI powered legal virtual assistant builder platform. Today, I'm going to show you some real life examples of how Clapper is helping automate legal administrative uh, key kind of tasks that often attorneys may be spending time on. So really kind of freeing up that attorney's time to focus on billable work. So I'm going to run through several use cases, real life use cases of Clapper, how it's able to automate those tasks on behalf of the attorney. Before we get started, I just want to open up with a couple of poll questions. So if you guys can please respond to those two poll questions, that should be open or should be opening up shortly. Please respond to that. I will give you 30 seconds to respond to that, to a minute. So while you guys respond, just want to give you a little bit of history and overview of Clapper, the product itself. Clapper is, as I said, is a generative AI powered legal virtual assistant builder platform. So with Clapper, you can create no-code virtual assistants or chatbots that are empowered with content that is learned from your knowledge systems. So your knowledge management systems, such as your DMS applications like iManage or NetDocuments, your time and billing platforms powered by 3E, Aderant, and so on, your experience management platforms, either custom homegrown or platforms like Foundation, your time entry platforms such as Intap, Time or Aderant iTimekeep or Harvest or Time Mapping and many other platforms. Clapper has the ability to learn from these applications, including Microsoft SharePoint, without necessarily downloading the content and doing a real-time learning of that data. And it can answer questions as well as perform tasks in those applications. So with Clapper, there are three key things that you need to note before we get into some demo examples. The first one is Clapper deploys securely on your Azure tenant, meaning that anybody who installs Clapper within their firm's tenant only have access and nobody else does, meaning that the vendor, which is us, will never have access to your data. And nobody else outside of your firm will have access to the data because the data is basically protected right within the boundaries of your Azure tenant. And because it's hosted on your Azure tenant, anything and everything that Clapper learns lives securely within your tenant. So no one has access to the data. Second is Clapper ships with a number of key connectors that are basically connectors that connects to your knowledge management applications. Again, securely, these applications can be hosted on premises, like iManage Work on-prem, or it could be in the cloud. Clapper has connectors into these commonly used legal applications like NetDocuments, iManage, SharePoint, SQL, and so on, that it can seamlessly connect to the data set, learn the data set, and you can surface the learnings within the context of a chatbot. We call it an assistant. And the third one, which is probably most important, is Clapper's unique pricing model. Clapper is basically priced for anybody to adopt generative AI within the firm. So with Clapper's pricing starting at just $10 per user per month, Clapper becomes the most cost-effective generative AI toolset in the market today, which is protected by your privacy, confidentiality, security of your tenant protection, system protection, so no data leaves your tenant ever. And the second one is a connected model where you can connect with to any knowledge system to learn the data with a very effective pricing model. So what you're seeing on the screen here is our Clapper designer tool where you can design assistants, basically a no-code platform where you can create assistants without writing a single line of code. And a big contrast with some of our competitive platforms out there compared to Clapper is the ease of use. Clapper, you don't need a user guide. You do not need any formal training to get started. It literally is a very simple, clean user interface that lets you guides you in a very intuitive way. It's basically a UI designed by attorneys, knowledge attorneys for knowledge management team members, knowledge attorneys, innovation team members to design virtual assistants. So we'll come back and look at how Clapper learns from data sets a little bit later. But first, we're going to look at how Clapper is currently being used by many firms to automate legal administrative tasks. So to do that, prior to this demo, I built out an assistant called Legal Services Assistant, and I trained it on a bunch of data using a connectors to SharePoint, NetDocs, iManage, SQL, and so on. And I deployed that by using one-click deployment to Microsoft Teams, to my SharePoint website, intranet portal as a chatbot, and even deployed Clapper as part of our guided search in our SharePoint site collection. So let's have a look at all these scenarios in a second. So we'll look at a multi-channel demo of how Clapper can be used, built once. The assistant can be built once, and it can be deployed in all these different channels for end users to consume and basically query content. So through this demo, I deployed Clapper, this specific assistant, as a chatbot within my SharePoint search. So I'm going to switch over to the SharePoint search bar here. And here I have a legal internet, and I have the search bar, which is a pretty common search bar that most customers have. And the search bar is an enterprise search bar. It does a lot of cool things like doing enterprise search across data, both in time and billing data and so on. But what we've also done here is enhanced it with Clapper Intelligence, Generative AI Intelligence. So the first question I'm going to start asking Clapper here is what is the firm's work from home policy? So you can see here it has a traditional kind of search interface. The results shows up at the top and the bottom. But right in the middle, Clapper is able to surface this generative AI powered content. Again, a lot of people have asked me this question. So what's the difference between a generative AI powered search and an enterprise search strategy that the firm might have? With enterprise search, typically you've got links to content. You don't necessarily get summarized answer to the question that you seek. So you can see here with the generative AI powered search, I got the answer that I'm looking for in terms of my firm's work from home policy. And it also what citations are where it learned it from. So these documents can be uploaded directly into Clapper using our connector to Netbook Shares, or you can learn from data sets within NetDocuments, iManage, SharePoint, and many different sources. So Clapper does not just learn content within documents. Clapper also learns content, document metadata. So you can actually ask Clapper questions, not just about content within the document, but also around the document. For example, here is an example of a Clapper giving data, basically citing documents based on metadata. For example, I'm asking a question on documents authored by my fellow colleague Laura for this specific matter. And it's able to get that data real time from NetDocuments. And I can click on the link to access the document. With the power of ND Click integration with NetDocuments for NetDocuments customers, the document can simply be opened in the respective Microsoft Office application or PDF. So let me show you some more examples of what our iManage customers are doing. With our iManage integration, again, around document content, document metadata, reading the document, understanding the document, because Clapper has iManage connector that it can learn both the document content as well as the document metadata. So here's an example of documents that I just asked for that are authored by Adele. So there is a metadata column in iManage called authored by for a specific matter. And here, instead of using the matter number, I'm using the matter name. So Clapper is able to retrieve those two documents that are in iManage that obviously I have access to, which is very important from a security perspective. And it retrieves those two documents and presents it right there. I can click on it and open it. Again, this integration works with both iManage Work as well as iManage Cloud. So Clapper can learn using this iManage connector for both iManage Work Server customers and cloud customers. So some of the other things I want to show you is contextual awareness of Clapper. For example, one more use case that we do for our customers is the ability to ask questions on whether there's a specific type of document for a specific matter. For example, here, I'm asking a question, do we have an NDA for this matter? And Clapper comes back and says, yeah, you do, and here's a document. An obvious follow-up question to ask is a quick kind of a knowledge nugget on the NDA. So you can ask a follow-up question, what is the agreed confidentiality clause in that matter, for that, within that NDA for this matter? Or you can even ask, who are the signatories of this specific NDA and when was it signed? I'm going to go a step further. Rather than asking questions about the key the key content within the document, I'm actually going to ask it to compare the confidentiality clause within the NDA against my playbook. So again, you're doing all this through the power of generative AI powered guided search within SharePoint. And remember, Clapper is an assistant builder platform. So you build the assistant once and you could deploy it within the SharePoint search box, or you can also deploy it in Teams as an assistant. So we'll look at a couple of examples in Teams as well. But here I've simply typed in the words, can you check the confidentiality clause for the Bernstein matter NDA against the matter playbook, the firm's NDA playbook? And I've asked this question. You can see here it goes and compares and gives me a very detailed answer on the similarities and the dissimilarities between the two documents and all the sections that may need my attention. So all of a sudden, through this very powerful demo, you're able to see how a chatbot, a generative AI powered virtual assistant, can actually learn data from your DMS platforms for gathering knowledge intelligence, document intelligence for research purposes, as well as for finding content within your DMS. I want to show you one more last example here, but in this case, I'm not going to use a search bar. I'm actually going to use a chatbot. So you can see here, Clapper is also being deployed as a chatbot here, right within my SharePoint site. So I can ask the exact same question. It yields the same answer, no matter where you use it, because it's an omni-channel approach. The idea is that you build a chatbot once, the system once, and you deploy it across multiple channels. So you can see here that it comes back with the metadata-based search that I just did, which is find all the documents authored by a specific user and handled by a specific person. And these are all metadata properties on the document. So a couple of other examples I want to show you here in terms of time and billing intelligence. For example, how Clapper can connect to your 3D data or a SQL data warehouse or Microsoft Fabric data set through our connectors and the data connectors, and it can learn the data and it can answer questions based on who you are. For example, here, I can ask a question. So rather than doing this right here in SharePoint, I'm going to switch over into Teams, and I'm going to show how Clapper, the same assistant deployed in Teams, is going to answer some cool questions around time and billing data. So for example, because it knows who I am, who I'm logged in as, I can simply ask a question, get all my active energy matters, and it should go back using the SQL connector, and based on the fact that who I am, it should come back and give me the result. Okay, so let me ask a different question here. So let me ask, what is the status of a specific matter? And it'll do the same thing, right? So basically the idea is that, so I'll show you as a second part of this demo how Clapper is able to get that information, how it's able to connect to that information from within all these line of business applications, right? So I want to show you a couple more examples of how task delegation can help. So one more example of task delegation is the ability to do time entry. So with our time entry integration, especially we have connectors into common time entry platforms. You can use simply the guided search bar or the chat bot or the Teams bot to do time entry. So I can ask or I can give a command because Clapper is not just a Q&A platform where it's learn data from your knowledge systems and answering questions intelligently, but it's also an assistant. That's why we call it an assistant. We don't call it a chatbot because it's not just a chatbot. It's truly a virtual assistant. For example, if I give a command here that says rather than ask, for example, this one talks about getting information on a specific matter. But if I give a command here that it's more to do stuff, for example, can you enter time right within the guided search bar within this chatbot? Minimize that. Here I'm asking it to enter 3 hours for today for a specific matter, and I've also specified the task for it. And you can see here it's done a time entry for me right within that application. So the example we are using here for integration is a time entry application called Harvest. And just by using English language within a search box, I was able to do stuff, not just get stuff, do stuff. So the same thing applies to even like IT support tickets and so on, where I can ask Clapper to log IT support tickets for me in, say, ServiceNow, any IT support platform. So with Clapper, you have the ability to do both administrative functions, delegate administrative functions like applying for entering timesheets, applying for leave, or logging an IT support ticket. So at this point, I'm just going to briefly pause, and we would like you to do a quick poll. The poll question would be, what kind of legal tasks do you think is taking most of your attorney's time? And if you guys can please answer the question for us. So while you answer the poll, I'm just going to show you how Clapper is doing all this magic. You know, how it's able to connect to all these different data sets, able to understand the data and bring back relevant results, how it's able to do stuff on behalf of you. For example, the time entry you just did on behalf of me. How is it able to do that? So let's go back for answering this question. We go back to Clapper Builder. So Clapper Builder basically is this no-code platform that a non-technical person can go and easily create an assistant and give it the knowledge it needs to learn data from using the connectors. So here I have my legal services assistant, the demo that I was doing with this assistant deployed in Teams and SharePoint and all these different platforms. So here, what you're seeing here is a canvas that has two key components. One is called the knowledge builder and the other one's called a skill builder. Knowledge builder is a module that helps Clapper connect to these different knowledge sources. The knowledge sources could be within a computer, which is most of the computers, they do this, where you can drag and drop the content source. Could be a folder structure, could be a file, a group of files, could be a zip file, or could be a combination of all of that. You can simply drag and drop it, and Clapper will learn the data. Remember, any content you drag and drop into Clapper here always stays securely within your tenant. No one, including us as a vendor, has access to that content. Clapper also has a web connector that you can simply point, click, and configure to URLs that are on the internet or inside a network. Clapper also has the ability to connect to files on your network, within a network, online files, and so on. Our SharePoint connector is hands down one of our best connectors. So we know that a lot of legal app data, especially collaboration data, a lot of data, and this lives in SharePoint. A lot of law firms invest a lot of money and effort in intranets, building intranets, sophisticated intranets, and a lot of the data set for this intranets lives as lookup data in SharePoint lists. With Clapper SharePoint integration, Clapper can learn from any SharePoint data. For example, here I'm going to connect to a SharePoint site. the root side here. And just like that, Clapper can connect to a list, document library, a page library, and you can feed it data. And you can not just feed it any data, you can feed it list data. It understands special columns, like lookup columns, people lookup columns. It'll basically unpack those columns for you automatically. Says the people lookup column will unpack the person's name, the full name, preferred name, email, phone number, office, and so on. It'll unpack all that attributes out of the people lookup column and that you can query on. This is much more superior than any SharePoint connector, including some of the beta SharePoint connector that Microsoft Copilot ships. So from here, for example, I can easily train it on a document library or a pages library, and I can also select all the metadata columns that I want Clapper to learn from on the SharePoint list or SharePoint library. You can even control, especially for customers who are using some third-party software for the internet, where all your display items of your list items are in some sort of a kind of a custom URL. You can even control the citation. So basically, when you click on the item, the SharePoint list item that it learned from, it can navigate to that custom form. And that custom form could be, as I said, a custom page from your third-party internet provider, could be a Power App, whatever you've designed for rendering that content of that list item. So a SharePoint connector truly is an incredible, powerful connector. It can learn data, it can learn list items, it can learn documents, it can learn metadata, it can control the citation links. It really sky's the limit in terms of the power of this connector. Our Net Documents connector is also a very powerful connector. Our Net Documents connector can connect to any Net document source. It be a cabinet, folder, workspace, and it learns the content from there. And not only learns the content within the documents, it also learns content around the documents, metadata. So you can add, simply select the cabinet, search for your workspace, and add that source to that training data set. So Clapper can learn the data and answer questions. Again, any training that you do here is limited and restricted just to your tenant. So no one else have access to the data except for users. And security obviously is a key factor here to make sure that users only are allowed to see the data they are supposed to see, both from Net Documents and iManage. With the iManage connector, same thing as Net Documents. We have the ability to connect to an iManage repository, a tenant, select the library, select the workspace, and it learns again the data within the documents, around the documents, so that you can query those documents. Some of the other skills I showed you during the demo was the time entry skill, right? For time entry skill, we kind of slightly diverge away from Knowledge Builder and talk about Skill Builder. With our Skill Builder, you have the ability to build skills that are basically helps Clapper do stuff on behalf of the attorney, on behalf of the user. For example, the skill that we looked at during the demo was the timesheet skill, where I simply pasted in predefined text and can you enter 3 hours for today for a specific matter number that I'm currently a working attorney on. And I also said, what is the time entry for? And if you recall, it did the time entry for me in Harvest. How did that happen? It happened because Clapper has a skill builder module and a skill built that this assistant currently uses called Timesheet. So when I click on the settings of that, you can see here it uses one of our connectors called Web Connector that has the ability to connect to any endpoint, a Web API endpoint. It can do a post and get method on those endpoints, basically read and write content into that application using any one of the authorization authentication supported protocols that API supports, like OAuth, basic token, and so on. So again, not to get too technical, the idea here is that with our skill builder, you can design very powerful skills that you can read and write to applications, to your knowledge management platforms, right from within Clapper. Like, for example, time entry or applying for leave, or even logging a ticket for a IT support issue. You also saw how I did the time and billing demo, where I was able to retrieve all my active energy matters and also ask a specific question on the billing attorney, the working attorney, and the practice that one of the matters belongs to. So how did that happen? It happened through the matter skill. So before this demo, we configured a matter skill that uses a SQL connector. With a SQL connector, using the right output prompts, we were able to train the skill to connect to the right SQL model to get the data set, again, a secured query based on who I am as a billing attorney or working attorney based on my user ID. So in summary, Clapper is truly a unique platform. With Clapper, the first and foremost takeaway of Clapper is it's a platform that deploys on your Azure tenant, your firm's Azure tenant. So the data never leaves your firm. Both the data that it learns from and also the learned data, also called bindings or large language model tokens, everything lives securely in your tenant. Clapper has a unique and cost-effective pricing model starting at just $10 per user per month. And last but not the least, Clapper has incredibly powerful connectors for your knowledge applications, common knowledge management platforms that are used within law firms. And once you deploy Clapper, you can build no-code assistants using a very simple UI. No buttons, no complex buttons, no complex drop downs and choice values to select. It's a simple, very easy to use UI designed for attorneys by attorneys. And when you build an assistant, you have the ability to empower that assistant with knowledge from your knowledge management applications using a knowledge builder platform, which uses all the connectors to SharePoint, NetDocs, iManage, or even documents that lives on your laptop, on your desktop, or network shares. And with Skill Builder, you have the ability to give it skills, basically delegated administrative tasks, so the attorney can free up the time. For example, timesheet, applying for leave, scheduling meetings, creating IT support tickets. Just a few examples of how Clapper Skill Builder can be used. And we also saw examples, real life examples of how other law firms are using Clapper in terms of getting data from your time and billing platform, surfacing intelligence from DMS, your document management system, and even doing time entry. So we're going to end this webinar with a quick poll question. And while the poll is open, the poll question will be, tell us the most exciting feature that you saw today in today's demo of our Clapper. And while we have this poll question open, we're going to take some questions. So we have some questions flowing here. So one of the questions that was asked here is, are your customers using this instead of Copilot for Microsoft 365 Enterprise? The answer is our customers today are using Clapper because Clapper is really the only platform in the market that has predefined the connectors for legal knowledge management applications like NetDocuments, iManage, SharePoint, SQL Server. With a Web API connector, it can connect to any modern web application like Foundation, Intap. You understand 3 data, Aderant data. So our customers are using Clapper for helping learn from these knowledge applications using the Power Generative AI. So they are using Clapper for that purpose. Copilot still has this place for learning emails and so on, which is really more focused on 365 data set. But our customers are basically using a combination of both. The second question I have here is regarding integration with iManage. Does Clapper honor private security on documents and folders and ethical laws and matters? Correct. So Clapper has 2 types of training. There's an end user training and a bot builder, system builder training. In both the training, Clapper is aware of security. So that's the time we have here. Thank you for attending the webinar. Have a great day.